just out of curiosity, were you adding Malvasia and Trebbiano into the Chianti Classico prior to the rule change, to the disciplinary change in 2006, and moved to Vinsanto after that, or was it already in production?
We never put any white grape in our red wine, but despite the law was with adding a little bit, but we never did. Since the very beginning in 77, we have accepted to be, somehow different.
Welcome to this special Clubhouse session of the Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as members of the Italian wine community engage in fascinating conversations about contemporary wine topics. If you enjoyed the show, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. And remember to subscribe and rate the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your pods.
Hi everyone, my name is Beatrice and welcome to Italian Wine Clubhouse Ambassador's Corner. Our Clubhouse has been ranking the top amongst Italian wine podcast shows. The show's concept is to let Italian wine ambassadors have the opportunity to interview their favorite producers. This is an episode that gives them a free hand to ask any questions to their selected producer. This session is recorded and will be released in Italian Wine Podcast to reach more listeners, and especially for those who cannot participate due to time zone differences. Today's guest host is Scott Thomas, a seasoned educator, sommelier, wine judge, and writer, with over 2 decades of experience in fine dining, distribution, and wine education. He is the co-founder of Grappolo Food Wine School in Denver, offering immersive travel, public and private events, and the signature Italian wine consultant certification, among others. He also serves as wine director at Restaurant Olivia, where he curates an Italian forward program with global breadth. Scott earned his master's in wine culture from Slow Foods University of Gastronomic Science in 2019, after 2 years living and studying in Piedmont and Tuscany. He is one of only 22 Italian wine experts certified by the Vinitaly International Academy, and holds additional credentials as a certified Italian wine educator, certified wine educator, WSET Level 3, and certified sommelier. He also serves as an official ambassador for the wines of Orvieto and Langhe. Today, he's gonna interview Lorenza Sebasti of Castello di Ama. So Scott, how are you and how are you, Lorenza?
Very good. Fantastic. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Lorenza, how are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm so happy to join this conversation.
We are happy to have you here. Scott, are you ready for our 3 ritual questions?
Yes, I'm ready.
Perfect. So Scott, how did you discover Castello di Ama?
Well, I've been enjoying the wines of Castello di Ama for well over a decade. I mean, they've long stood out to me as one of the most important and recognizable producers, Chianti Classico. I mean, their labels are iconic within the Italian wine world. And I also associated them with kind of elegance and consistency all the time. But really, it wasn't until we hosted Lorenza for a trade luncheon together with their importer, the sorting table, last year at Restaurant Olivia, that I really truly began to grasp the magnitude of what they do. And that experience kind of opened up a new level of appreciation for the estate, their vision, the depth, the cultural significance. Yeah. And then I've had the privilege of visiting 3 times in the last 15 months, including in June with our Tuscany immersion trip that my wife and I organized. And each one has been completely different. So it's whether it's a focus on the vineyards or the art installations or olive oil, Vinsanto, but truly the spirit of hospitality, what makes for me what Ama so forgettable. And Lorenza is a huge part of that.
That's so amazing. But so tell us, why did you select Lorenza as your guest today?
I chose her because she so beautifully represents the soul of Castello di Ama. I mean, she's one of the kindest and most inspiring people I've met in Italian wine. She's a thoughtful leader. She's grace and vision and authenticity. Her commitment to world-class wines, olive oil, and art, it just makes Ama not just a winery, but really an Italian cultural beacon. And I'm happy to share her story with listeners today.
What are the learning objectives that we should expect from this interview?
Okay. So there's a lot, probably. I'm sorry, I ramble. But really to gain a deeper understanding of the history, philosophy, and evolution of Castello di Ama, learn about Lorenza's vision for the estate for the future, examine the role of Sangiovese and other native and or traditional varieties like Malvasia, Canaiolo, and international varieties that they work with, Merlot, Pinot Nero, Chardonnay. And I'd love to talk about the contemporary art exhibitions that are woven into AMA experience and hospitality.
I can't wait to hear everything that you are going to talk about. So it's time for me to mute myself and turning over the floor to you, Scott. Have a nice interview, guys, and we will hear us later, okay?
Wonderful, grazie.
Prego.
Ciao Lorenza, come va? How are you?
Ciao, Scott. I'm very, very well and very happy to listen from you. My God, I never got such an introduction. It's so beautiful.
Oh, come on. It's all the truth, honestly, especially after visiting there and getting to learn more about you and the estate. It's really an amazing place. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So will you do our listeners a favor? Will you please introduce yourself? Will you please give a sense where Castello di Ama is within the Chianti Classico area? And will you describe Ama, the place?
A little bit, of course. I'm happy to do it. I am Lorenza Sebasti, and I am the daughter of one of the four founders of Castello di Ama. Castello di Ama is a very little hamlet in the heart of Chianti Classico region between Radda and Gaiole. Essentially, we are in the comune di Gaiole in Chianti, but we look more, vineyards to Radda. We have 75 hectares of vineyard, and we only produce estate wine. And lucky enough, I was just 15 years old when I discovered AMA. My father was already one of the investor, and he made me, possible to come and visit the property. And I really fell in love. And then I said to myself, this is my dream, and I want to go there and start working at the winery. But I am not the winemaker. I was lucky to meet Marco, that was already the winemaker here. Marco Parlanti is making the wine at Castello di Ama since 1982. And so together we have been, working and sharing our private life. And I would say the result of Castello di Ama is, of course, part is contribution.
You two work together now. Is there more generations coming in the future? Is the third generation working with the winery?
Yeah, Scott, have you met my son Arturo? Arturo is our elder son, is 28, and now since 5 years is after his degree in winemaking and a few beautiful experience in wineries in Sicily and in Piemonte, he joined Castello di Ama and started working here in 2020. And he is now, learning from us in different, aspects. But his passion is a sense of responsibility. And at the same time, I think that beautiful, I would say, young blood makes a good future ahead.
And your responsibilities, you're CEO and you travel the world representing the brand and everything. I mean, really, you do a lot besides making the wine. Is that true?
The truth is that I'm enjoying my life very much because I care about Ama. My family, sometimes they complain that is the only real child I had in my life. But you have seen Ama, it's a little word, and we had I would say, the privilege to put together, the beauty of the landscape, inspiring us to, also inviting artists to build, kind of a site-specific collection, but always, with the center of our life is the wine. And lucky we have stick, all these years, now more than 40 years, but only producing from our estate. So we have not to really travel, going far to reach other vineyards or move in other region. So our life is easier than many other great growers, but they have to move around, also following their production.
Yes, and that was going to be one of my next questions is like a bird's eye view of Ama. It's a large contiguous piece of land with multiple valleys and different identities, let's say, but all tied together by one village, which is called Ama. That's correct?
We are lucky that the vineyards are 4 valleys, one after another, all in the same, I would say, in one big area. But the fact is that we have worked to achieve that, because in the past, when my father, I'm talking about the 72, when they start, buying some land and the main, beautiful villas, and then they built the cellar from scratch and finished these investments in 79. At the time, we owned 55 hectares of vineyards, and then I could buy in 97. I could have the chance to buy the land in the border and plant there the Vigneto Montebuoni. It's the beautiful vineyards where we have our Chianti Classico selection, and it's just in the border of Vigneto Bella Vista. So that has allowed us to have at the fourth vineyard.
Was this part of a mezzadria sharecropping like system leading up to the 60s and the purchase?
Yes, we have beautiful books where you have all these names of these very many property, all with the mezzadria, ownership, sharecropping, and that was part of the culture here, and that something that of course has been somehow transformed, because at the time they have vines and they have olive trees, but they have also grano, I would say
Grain.
grano, yeah, grain,
Grain.
and fruit trees. So it was a mixed production. And then, of course, when we started the investments, we started to make the vineyard with only the vines. And that has been an important changement in the landscape. But now it's still beautiful, because we have always privilege, the exposition and making the vineyards in this beautiful parcel allow us to make the best cultivation and to achieve the best quality after the harvest, and that allow us also to follow the steps. Essentially, we have 100 parcels, so we have 100 little piece of land that we follow, and we arrive to harvest it specifically that little parcel one by one. And this is, I think, that is one of the most important methodology that Marco has started and improved during his career to achieve the best quality, and having also taken some decision in the past. We have abandoned some low valley. You mentioned we are producing Chianti Classico. Most of our production is Sangiovese. We own 55 hectares of Chianti Classico, and then other 20 hectares that are mix of different grape, Merlot, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Franc, and Chardonnay. But the most is Sangiovese. And the truth is that Sangiovese, it's like Pinot Noir, it's very delicate and very sensitive to the exposition.
Well, I mean, Lorenza, with that and what you just gave us as an explanation, I mean, I think you can ask 12 different people about Castello di Ama and what you are known for, and I think you would get 12 different answers. But of course, obviously, wine and art and olive oil and the hospitality piece. But I mean, you just started to explain the wine portion of this. And I would say it's, an impressive lineup of both native, international varieties. So could you give us an overview of kind of each wine that you produce and the style? I mean, this is a big conversation, but maybe we'll touch on more of the Gran Selezione a little bit later.
Perfecto. We produce only estate wine, and we have a very lovely Chianti Classico Annata that has the name Ama. And this is normally a wine that we release 2 years after the harvest. So we give him 8 months of barrel aging, used barrel, and then minimum 6 months of bottle aging, so that the wine has a little, right smoothness before being in the market. And this is more or less 1/3 of our production. And then we have our, let's say, higher wine that is Montebuoni, Chianti Classico Riserva, coming from this beautiful vineyard that I was mentioning before. And this is a very lovely wine, a little more complex. And then we have above this Castello di Ama San Lorenzo and Aiku. These two wines are a kind of the moon and the sun. Castello di Ama San Lorenzo is our flagship wine. It's been, I would say, the result of a long work that we have done in the vineyards from 2010. At the time, Marco was president of the Consortium of Chianti Classico, and the Chianti Classico agree on, this upper appellation, the designation of Gran Selezione. So for the Gran Selezione, we were very committed to offer, our best contribution. So we decided to upgrade our Castello di Ama, that was already the blend of all our vineyards, and it was a beautiful Chianti Classico, but selecting only the old vines. So our Castello di Ama San Lorenzo is not a selection of one vineyard, but comes from the 4 valleys, from the 4 vineyards, but only selecting by age. So we are talking about average of 25 years old vineyards. And in that case, Castello di Ama San Lorenzo was very, 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 very beautiful received, because it happens that he won in the Wine Spectator in the top 100 with the number 6 in 2014. And that has been a really great debut for this wine and for the Gran Selezione. It's a very important for me, the respect of the terroir. So for Castello di Ama, what I like always to underline is that from the Chianti Classico Annata until the single vineyard, so the top of our pyramid, I would say we are making Vigneto Bella Vista. We are just very happy because Antonio Galloni gave 100 points 2 weeks ago for this beautiful wine in 2022 that will be released next year. And Vigneto Bella Vista is the oldest, I would say, crew of Chianti Classico. At the time, the first vintage we make was 78, and it was very difficult to, appreciate or really to imagine a Chianti Classico that can age so well, that can keep, this beautiful freshness and youth. And for us, it's always been the wine, I would say, the wine who lead the whole range of Castello di Ama wines. But if you taste Ama and if you taste Vigneto Bella Vista, they are absolutely brothers. There is a fil rouge, there is a consistency, there is the style, the finesse. It's just about, I like to say, like pixel in a picture. So some is a little more dense, some is a little more, light, but absolutely the same landscape.
Absolutely. And first of all, compliments to you and the team for your recent accolade. I always find that the Bella Vista especially is just so pure. It's so beautiful. And I think, what you've done, and just to say this, is that you've done an incredible job positioning your brand. You're represented in some of the most important restaurants and wine shops in the world, but you make wine for everybody too, from the Anata, from the Ama Chianti Classico, all the way up to the icon wines. So you've done a really impressive job with that. And also bringing great recognition to the territory, especially with the introduction of Gran Selezione. That was going to be my next question is, have you seen this category as a great achievement for Chianti Classico, the Gran Selezione?
Yes, I appreciate what has been done. I think that there is a lot of work more to be done in terms, especially in vineyard recognition, because now, we have a territory that is 7,000 hectares. And I think that the move should be really to give more information about this parcel. We have Alessandro Masnaghetti that did a fantastic work, an amazing book that is a real deep map on the territory. But still, I think there should be kind of commitment from the consortium to price the very beautiful vineyards and to move on for some area that are not really focused on the quality that you expected. So for sure there is an increase of quality, but we have to be always more selective, but not selective in terms of name of the winery, but selective in terms of quality of the wine. And now we have some important vintage that we have been all very, very happy and proud of. But you have to taste the wine. So I believe that we have more and more opportunity to make our wine with this focus on the quality. And of course, now there is also this big movement that will be the disciplinary decision to avoid international varieties from 27. That is something that we are not happy with, but we will respect. And that, of course, will make us for Vigneto La Casuccia, that is a beautiful blend of Sangiovese and Merlot, where is 20% Merlot. For this wine, we are already decided that starting 22, we will not label as a Chianti Classico anymore because for this decision.
Oh, wow. So you keep La Cosuccia on the label, but will it be Chianti Classico Reserva or more towards the IGT designation?
The Tuscany IGT designation, let's say it's a little polemic decision, but sometimes you have to raise the voice. And so we said, you know what? Okay, it's not a Chianti Classico anymore. At the same time, of course, with a lot of respect, we will, maintain our Castello di Ama San Lorenzo, our Gran Selezione, and Vigneto Bella Vista, our Gran Selezione.
Well, I think your followers and loyalists who know, what the wine is, La Cosuccia especially, you'll have no problem, I think, maintaining that praise long term. So that was probably a difficult decision that you had to make as a winery, but absolutely understandable. May I now switch to some of the international varieties that you produce? I would say, when you look at the Ama labels, you produce some of the most iconic wines in Italy, and that includes La Cosuccia and Bella Vista. But the one that garners praise often is La Parita, the 100% Merlot. I would love to hear more about how that project started and how Merlot became such a large part of your program and why it grows so well in the Ama estate and Gaiole especially.
That is really an extraordinary story. I would say, thanks to a very important mentor that our first generation, and then particularly Marco, had as a guide, that was Patrick Leon. Patrick has been friend of the founder of AMA and become, the reference for more than a decade. Helped Marco to learn, from Bordeaux and have access, to all the University of Bordeaux and many important supplier. We were starting, using barrels in 82 and 83, thanks to Patrick. And of course, he was interested to help us. At the time, the Sangiovese was very weak, and it was very difficult to also get color. The grape were big and the yields were high. In these years, we have tried Cabernet and the Merlot as an experiment, and particularly La Parita is a little vineyard in front of our cellar. It's a vineyard planted in 74 with the Canaiolo, and they decided to surgraph in 1982 with Merlot. And very, very, let's say, surprising, it happens to be an extraordinary result from the first year. The 84 has been a rainy year, so they just make a one little barrel, and the wine was just taken as an experiment. But 85 was already extraordinary, and we bottled 3,000 bottles. And it happens that just a few years later, we have been invited by the Académie du Vin in Zurich, and it was a world wine tasting organized by René Gabriel and other journalists, and with the most important Pomerol and Chateau Petrus, and we won in this blind tasting. So that has been a really extraordinary adventure for us, because Ama was totally unknown outside of Italy. And it happens that in 1 minute, you kind of a winning ticket, we become so famous, and everybody asked for trying this Merlot. The production is still the same. We decided not to increase. At the time, in 1982, then they surgraph another parcel, always in the La Parita vineyard. So the total production is coming from these 2.5 hectares. And this is a Merlot that doesn't taste, I would say, Merlot, because the influence of the terroir is so important that normally if you put this wine in a blind tasting, you will discover as a Tuscan wine, and in particular, if you have tasted already La Parita, you will say it's La Parita because it's a very strong personality. It's not sweet, it's not heavy, and there's this mint and dark chocolate taste that is so spectacular. At the same time, it's a wine that for a long time, for me, has been my enemy because everybody was asking for this Merlot, and I say, oh, but we produced Chianti Classico. I was so, proud of our work with the Sangiovese. And so we had to sometimes, to put aside this wine. But after 40 years now, I feel the baby, they are all now beautiful adults. I am so happy we had now Vigneto Bella Vista getting this recognition, but also La Casuccia got 100 points with the vintage 2019. And I think these three wines, they have three aspects of the same blend. They're beautiful, each one with a kind of nuance different, but for sure they are at the same level from a quality point of view, from the complexity that they show. And I am happy to say that we are continuously, producing this wine in a very small quantity, but with the same respect from the same vines. And we have not used somehow, the brand La Parita to make a famous wine that would not be a real authentic expression of Castello di Ama.
For many people, it's the identity. But going back to my statement, is that you could ask 12 different people, what is Ama? And they would give you different answers. And so I would compliment that wine, especially. I was able to taste it last month and two different vintages. And it's just, and it ages so beautifully well too. So compliments to you and Marco and the entire team. And when I was walking the vineyard, I noticed this very different canopy there. It was kind of like a V-shaped vertical. And I asked, and it was called the Lyris system. Is that correct? And how did that happen?
This is
And what are the benefits of that vine training, especially for Merlot there?
That is part of this, I would say, period of experimentation. And at that time, Marco was visiting Montpellier, and Professor Carbonneau was studying. I'm talking about the early 80s. He was studying about this possibility to get, the result of high density, but without replanting the vineyard. So we found that this kind of transformation with the young vines that we had at the time, because we are talking about vineyards that were 7, 8 years old, we could make this important step on growing the quality. And we did for more than a decade. We transform 25 hectares in the Lyra system. La Parita is still, a vineyard that is of the time, but some of the Lyra system that at the time we transformed for Sangiovese, when we had the chance, we decided to replant and replant with high density, so with 4,800 vines per hectare, because Marco found that the yields, they tend to grow too much. So the effect of the lyra, you have two pareti, two parwa, so the leaves are double, and that make the double work of the leaves give much more consistency. The aromatic and the aspect of the grape are more interesting. At the same time, they tend to produce more because you have the production on the both sides of the lines. And that was, especially for Sangiovese, where we were striving to have low yields, it was more difficult. So when in the 90s we move on to replant some vineyards, Marco abandoned the Lyra for the Sangiovese. We still have the Lyra in the Merlot, we still have the Lyra in the Pinot Noir and in the Chardonnay, and a little part in all the Sangiovese vineyards that we wanted to keep. So we still have this system. It's not spread very much, but it's for sure the quality that he has gave, for sure, very interesting. I'm not familiar if there is in Italy now a new implantation of Lyra.
Personally, that's why I asked, because honestly, I'd never seen it prior to visiting your estate, and also seeing it in the Pinot Nero vineyard, and just really understanding what benefits that has, and if it more laborious, does it take more concentration in the vineyards with pruning and harvesting? I mean, obviously everything is done by hand, but is it more labor intensive, I guess, is my question also.
Absolutely, because you have to work twice in the row, because you have two wall of leaves. So you have to work every side of the wall. And very important is also that to achieve the quality of this training system, you have to get the leaves in order. So the leaves that should not cover it one over another. So you have to work very much during, especially when you have a beautiful season that grow very leaves. Springtime, you have to work to make the leaves in order. And then now, from now to the harvest, you have to prune and it's like you have to go to the hairdresser more often.
That's a good analogy. Well, that's super fascinating, and I'll keep my eyes out for more estates that may have that type of training system in the future. I guess next I would love to chat about some of the other projects you have. I just want to mention this because I was able to visit your property in November, and I messaged you and I said, Lorenza, I'm going to be in Chianti Classico for one day. I would love to see a Vinsantaya in action. And you said, yes, please come by. So I made the trip there and I walked into the state and down and into this beautiful kind of flat garden area with two greenhouses that have been transformed into Vinsantaya. And that's when I was, surrounded by bees and all the sweet smell of the grapes kind of, going through Appassimento. And it was absolutely amazing. And I have to say, I love your Vinsanto for multiple reasons. But one, it's very elegant. And two, I know it has a majority of Malvasia Biancolunga. And I'm curious how that project came about in kind of the majority of the, versus Trebbiano Toscano, as most producers work with. And then I guess, yeah, we'll start there with that question. Sorry, that was a lot.
The fact is that, Vinsanto is a great tradition, but at the same time, Marco is not really fanatic of Vinsanto, so he wanted to make the Vinsanto the most like a wine, so the maximum respect of balance and fragrance and the clean nose. So he has worked, of course, in the quality of the harvest. It's mandatory to harvest in September the Trebbiano and Malvasia to get a perfect grape. Very important is the total healthy of the grape. And then the grape in the Vinsantaya, of course, they are there to concentrate the sugar concentration. And it normally take 1 to 2 months. It depends also in the climate, the season. But truly, then the process is very important because at the time after we press the grape and we put the juice in the barrels, we keep the barrel half because the fermentation is in the barrel. When the fermentation is over, and normally, with this high concentration of sugar, it happens to take up to 10 months, 12 months to finish the fermentation. And in that moment is where we change a little bit the style of our Vinsanto because Marco make a racking, so we take off the litotal. So it's a passage where you clean somehow, the wine, and then you fill the barrels completely, and then close the barrels and leave for aging other 4 years. But avoiding, the very volatile acidity, avoid this kind of, for me, not lovely note of fermentation that you can get in the nose. And at the same time, our alcohol is it's not really high, so the wine is very fresh, but in a very beautiful balance. So the finesse you were talking, I think I would translate as in the word of balance. That is very important. And the presence of Malvasia Bianca compared to the Trebbiano, I tell you, we have saved only 3 parcels when we have this variety. We have only one white wine and we make it from Chardonnay. So we kept these 3 parcels for the Vinsanto. And I think it depends sometimes more on the yields in the harvest.
Just out of curiosity, were you adding Malvasia and Trebbiano into the Chianti Classico prior to the rule change, to the disciplinary change in 2006, and moved to Vinsanto after that, or was it already in production?
We never put any white grape in our red wine but despite the law was with adding a little bit, but we never did. Since the very beginning in 77, we have accepted to be, somehow different.
Okay, I won't. We won't tell anybody. We'll keep that secret. So, Lorenza, as we get into the last quarter of our conversation, I'd love to chat about two more things. One, about your olive oil and how amazing it is. And we use it at Restaurant Olivia. I would love to know more if anyone, a restaurateur is out there, how they could find your olive oil. And then two, I think it's so amazing that you made the investment to have your own frantoio on property and build that for the production of olive oil. And I know it's a big part of your program. So just if you could speak a little bit about that, it would be amazing.
Well, thank you very much for asking me, because I'm, all the family, since my father, we were always totally in love with our extra virgin olive oil. And, it's been the ambassador of, the Castello di Ama as a whole. And truly, when we got the 85, this terrible, frost that has, of course, made us losing the production for few years. It took us a long time to recover with the decent production, but I promised myself as soon as this happened, I would make the frantoio. So we made this frantoio in 2000. We bought the Pieralisi. So the Pieralisi allow you to have a very pure, fresh olive oil with this gramolatrice. So you have the process is all avoiding the contact with the oxygen. So you keep the freshness, the purity of the olive oil, and this happened to make extraordinary that the olive oil is beautiful when it's just pressed, but he keep this yacht, he keep this beauty, and I would say it's to drink, it's not to cook with. But this is because of this system. We harvest by hand, but we press in our frantoio every day, and then we store in the small stainless steel vats of 50 liters. Is super important for the olive oil to really respect the methodology. We are also very, let's say, happy that this area, we are 450 to 500 meters on the sea level. So this altitude is very beautiful for the production of the wine, but also for the olives. And we have several trees. I'm very happy to say that our first market is America, because we are working with since a long time with a beautiful company called Rogers, and they are importing the best product from Mediterranean Sea, amazing cheese and all kind of specialties are really amazing. I would recommend our friend that are listening to look at the catalog, because it's fantastic. And they were just at the Fancy Food with a lot of success with our olive oil. So happy to hear this. And the fact is that to learn about olive oil, I think, and you know better than me because you are a teacher, but you have to compare. You have to taste several olive oil and then make your own palate. I always think it's such a incredible, because this product makes you so happy, but you have to discover what is really good, to have this experience.
It brings me so much happiness too, and I'm so grateful you said that. But it is true. I think if you take a Tuscan coastal olive oil, from trees planted by the sea versus high altitude, I mean, the terroir will be completely different. And it's such a fun experiment, and definitely recommend this to anyone who has that opportunity to buy two separate ones, taste them side by side. You can slurp, it's okay. That's totally highly encouraged. But it's next to, I think tasting it in your estate with the house-made bread was phenomenal. So I know we're running out of time, but I would love to hear more, Lorenza, about your vision and your art installations that you have around the property. And it's another large part of your program, especially the hospitality. And I think you really won't really be able to understand it unless you visit, but I would love to hear more about that.
I really like to say we believe in this place. So we want to share the place with most of our friends and let them spending time here, So the idea of the hospitality is giving time, of course, to enjoy a tasting, and this is very important. But also, we are good to offer a nice, restaurant. I would say in an old house, so that you experience as you are a guest in our home. At the same time, taking time for you for a path, for a walk, or guided from us to see our collection of art. The collection of art is a gift that somehow that arrived at Ama. Starting in the 90s, I made a few exhibitions during the summer, but temporary. And then we found that this place deserved to have, art and this dialogue, but we didn't find the right, still the right way to go. And then it happens, we restore the cellar, and then we have a big place, a big niche where we used to have a big oak. We get rid of this oak and we dream about art installation, and we thought about a great Italian master, a very important artist that we admire very much, and we make our dream. Let's say, oh, listen, I would love to invite him and make a sculpture for that. So that has been really the great first, seed, and it happens that we invited Michelangelo Pistoletto in '99, and then since then, by chance, but also by a really great respect for the artist, we could grow our collection. So each artist has been a Dama, each artist has been really inspired by the place and make, this collection totally, I would say, organic to the place. So there is nothing that is really shouting, that there's nothing that is in contrast, but discreet and somehow modest, but in this beautiful little village where there are many others house, because we own two house and we own the beautiful part of the cellar, but then there is a part of the garden, a part in the cellar, and all this art is in a constant dialogue, and I would say also give you peace, it give you a sense of place. That is, I think, the great contribution of art.
I think it's so true. All of the installations feel like they're just blended into the environment. And if I'm not mistaken, is if the artist will visit, will get a sense of the place and then build something around it or even construct it in place. Is that true?
Exactly, exactly. They found their own place and they make the project for the place, or they find their own idea and then we look for the place. It's something that can be either way.
Unbelievable. Wow. Absolutely. Everyone should visit to experience that. And then, with that said, when I was there in June, I got to experience your new renovation in the restaurant, Il Ristoro de Villa Piangiani. Did I say that right? And
Yes.
I was completely blown away. I think it is absolutely the way that we should experience wine and food together. And it did feel like I was a part of your home. And so I just want to compliment you and your team and the chefs and your entire staff. And I would love to hear about your vision for that, because that's so atypical to have
Yeah.
an experience like that.
Scott, thank you for saying that you appreciate it. It's been a long work, but at the same time, we didn't want to lose the soul of that house. This is the house when I slept when I was 15 years old. This is the house that we have kept, for the family when they spend their vacation here. And we love that house. I say it's a beautiful old lady with many wrinkles. I don't want to lose this. And I think what we offer is a very simple menu del giorno. There is not a la carte. It's a really home style. But at the same time, we are very professional in the wine. So there are, the perfect temperature for the wine, the beautiful glasses, the very, very elegant tablecloth. This is something that I think is in the spirit of enjoying an important day. Let's say we know that people that visit us, they will take the memory of this place with them. And this is a great honor, a privilege, but a responsibility. So we try to do our best. Sometimes we make some mistakes, of course, and I try to always to share the passion and cover mistakes with our heart, but at the same time, I think it's beautiful to find that it's all authentic. It's not something with the, make it by the designer, but, it's not just how I think life is beautiful in the countryside because we have this authenticity surrounding us.
Yes, and your spirit of hospitality is really incorporated in everything, and I'm so grateful to be able to experience that, Lorenza. Well, I think our time is coming to a close, and I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time and making this conversation. Again, I would encourage anyone who's traveling to the Chianti Classico region to please certainly stop by and make an appointment. It's absolutely worth it. And look for the wines in your respective markets. They really are a great addition to any wine list and wine shop, but just to consume at home. And thank you, Lorenza. I really appreciate what you have done for the region. And you're a great ambassador and a wonderful person, and now a friend. And so I can't wait to visit again.
Scott, I can't wait that you come back and we have lunch together because last time I know I was not here, but at the same time, you are an ambassador, amazing. You are what you do for the Italian culture and wine and appreciation. It's so great. I'm so grateful with you for really inviting me and talking with you. It's such a pleasure. And please do what you do because you make so many people happy. Discover and appreciating the great Italian products is so important to make your life better. Despite Trump is not helping us, let's say we can do our best.
Well, thank you for that. I will say that, we have a whole coalition of Italian wine ambassadors. Many of them are listening now, and we really just love spreading the joy and of Italian wine. So there's just so much to talk about out there. So we give a lot of credit to you, the producers, for, all the valor, and we try to just, valorize what you're doing. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you all, and thank you for letting me, introduce to my world. It's so great. I could speak about Ama. It's always my passion and joy. So thank you
Yeah.
very much for this invitation.
Of course.
Thank you, Scott,
Piacere.
and thank you, Lorenza. This was such a lovely conversation from wine to oil and then to art. That was so amazing, really, guys. Well done. And I sincerely thank you so much for your time and effort to be in the same place and for doing this interview. That was amazing. How are you doing now, guys? Are you happy from your interview?
Absolutely. Extremely.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. I hope I
Anytime.
didn't make so many mistakes.
No,
with my
that
poor
was
English,
so
but
lovely. No,
It's
no,
okay.
Lorenza,
We can
you
do this
were
for
great.
hours and hours and
Yeah,
hours. So, really,
isn't it?
yes.
better with a glass of wine.
See, yeah, it's only 10
Yeah.
a.m. here in Denver, but that's okay. If you say it's okay, it's okay.
For
Okay.
those who are interested to participate, just send us a DM through our Instagram or mail our Italian Wine Podcast producer at info@italianwinepodcast.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in, and thank you so much again, Scott and Lorenza. This is a wrap. Thank you. Bye.
Piacere. Ciao,
Arrivederci.
grazie mille.
Arrivederci. Bye bye.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through italianwinepodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.